Revenge films.
My dad was a horrible man. He's cheated on his wife since the early days of their marriage and was also a heavy gambler. My mom suffered a lot because of him. The stupid father never worked nor put money in the house. What's worse, he would secretly steal money from her when she was asleep and use it to play around or gamble even more. I hated this wretched man intensely. Because this man wouldn't work for the family, my mom worked day and night to support me. I was able to go to college with a scholarship, and this was all thanks to my mother. I can never thank her enough. After graduating, I also secured a seat at a good company, and now I'm working a 9-to-5 job. However, the worst happened. My mom was diagnosed with cancer. And it wasn't like she confided to me about it. I just happened to find some medicine in the medicine cabinet, and when I looked it up on the web, I found out they were medication for cancer patients. I had to sit down and talk to my mother about this. When I did, she smiled weakly and said, "Please don't tell anyone you don't have to." When I knew that my mom wasn't receiving the proper treatment she needed for financial reasons, I thought of ways to give back to her as I worked. Then, I decided to send my entire savings to my mom's bank account. As I gave her my bank book, I told her I wanted her to receive proper, advanced treatment for cancer therapy. However, my mom seemed to be reluctant to use up the money I had earned. "Oh, honey, you don't have to do this for me. Isn't this money that you've earned by working very hard every single day? Weren't you saving this money up for something important? I don't want you to give up something just because of me." "Mom, please, I want this for you. If it's the slimmest chance that you'll get better with this money, I want you to take it. You're my mom. Of course I want you to get better." No matter what I said, she refused to say yes to my proposals to get the treatment. Because my damn father never put money in the house, my mom never had the opportunity, let alone a chance, to invest in a life insurance. I think that's why she was so reluctant to put a lot of money in for treatment. I thought long and hard about how I can persuade my mother to get the treatment she needed. What were the ways I could raise her motivation or make her want to get better again? However, when my family needed the most cooperation, my dad messed up. Big time. This dad never usually comes home, but sometimes he just randomly waltzes himself into the house and takes money or whatever he can find and leaves. Because of that, my mom made sure she always kept her wallet and bank books in the safe, just in case. However, when my mom left the house to go grocery shopping, this son of a decided to break into the house, rummage through everything, and managed to open up the safe without her permission. He found her bank book and signature stamp and just took it with him. In that bank account, there was the money I had sent her, the $1 million I'd saved up and sent my mom for her medical treatment, and he had just stolen it. I couldn't believe him. I quickly realized the bank book was gone and called him up, asking him what the hell he was thinking. The money in that bank account? That was for Mom. It's money I earned and gave to my mother, not you. How dare you just steal from her? Give it back this instant.
Oh, so it was you who sent me this much money. No wonder this account suddenly had so much money.
I don't give a darn about your story. Just give the bank book back to me. Give it back.
It's money you gave to your parents. Whether the father takes it or the mother takes it, shouldn't matter, eh? Sharing is caring.
Of course it's not the same. Are you crazy? That money isn't for you. It's for my mom. She really needs it right now, and I would never pay a single cent for you.
Stop being a selfish brat! Why are you making things so difficult? Anyways, this money is mine now! Stop complaining now, will you? Well, I gotta go now.
I thought of just telling him about Mom having cancer, but because she had strictly told me not to, I couldn't tell him. In the end, I lost touch with my dad, and I wasn't able to pay for my mom's medical fees anymore. Ideas were running through my head as I thought of other ways to get money back and prepare for her cancer treatment. However, soon after the whole incident, my mom's condition suddenly got worse, and she passed away just like that. It was only a matter of days or weeks. It was that sudden. My mom was acting like it was nothing, but her physical condition was getting worse and worse every day. The mental struggles and financial worries were also taking a toll on her health too. I was destroyed by sadness and was overwhelmed with emotions as I prepared for my mom's funeral. My mental health was close to nothing at this point when suddenly the phone rang. It was from my father. He had used up all of the money gambling, I assumed.
Hey, I can't seem to reach your mother. What's up? Is she doing okay?
You're just calling for the money, aren't you? You don't really care about Mom, do you? You're the worst, Dad. You truly are. I bet you don't even know that I'm getting ready for her funeral. Her funeral. Your wife is dead.
What are you talking about? Stop this nonsense!
Mom was battling with cancer this whole time. That's why I sent her that money. It was for her. She might have survived longer if she had had that money and got the treatment that she needed. I worked so hard to earn all that money, and I sent it to her because I wanted Mom to get better, and you ruined it. All of it. It's your fault she died.
Hey, look! Stop blaming me for everything! It's not my fault she died! She just did that herself, you know? Plus, hey, I mean, if you had $1 million and gave it to her just like that, you still have more, right? I'm sure you do. I'm the only parent you got now. Why don't you help out your pops a bit, eh?
Do you realize the absurdity of what you're saying right now? How dare you? I hope you go to hell and burn there. I never want to see your face again. Don't come to the funeral.
I won't go even if you ask me to. See ya!
He said that and the phone call ended. Why is he like this? Why is my family like this? I felt powerless and hopeless. Tears were welling up in my eyes, and I just wanted to curl up into a ball and cry like a little kid. I couldn't even tell if I was crying with sadness after losing my mother, or crying because I wanted my dad to die in her stead. After losing my mother I loved so much, it felt like there was a huge hole in my heart. I felt lost. Something big was missing in my life now, and it felt like things will never return to the way they were before. Then one day, I received a phone call from someone. It was from my grandparents on my dad's side. I rarely talk to my grandparents, but from what I've heard from them, it seems like they too were troubled by their son's gambling habits. Because the way he used his money was so horrible and just wrecked the entire home, they cut ties with him for the longest time. However, they said that they wanted to reach out to me after knowing my mother passed away, partially because it was their son's fault. They also knew about the $1 million that he took away from me, the money I'd worked so hard to earn for my mother. I was still very hurt and heartbroken after my loss, and my grandparents talked to me about something. It was about some of the property they had inherited from their parents. It wasn't much, but it was still something. However, they said that they would never want to give it away to their own son, so when they die, they plan to give it to charity and use it for donations and fundraisers. After knowing what happened to my mother, they said they wanted to leave the property to me as a lifetime gift. Obviously, I never asked for this, and it's not like I wanted or needed an inheritance from them or anything, so I politely declined the offer. Plus, even if I received the money, it wasn't like my mom was going to come back to me. However, my grandparents insisted that they do something for me, after feeling a lot of responsibility for what happened to my family. I was their only grandchild, so I guess they really wanted to do something for me before they got too old. In the end, I decided to accept their offer and receive a part of their Inter Vivos gift. Despite that, I still wanted to manage my life with my own money, so I had no plans to use what my grandparents gave me for a good while. I was keeping that safely tucked in. However, it did get me thinking, maybe I could put this to good use and get some sweet revenge on that stupid father. As I expected, after my mother passed away, this bastard started thinking of ways he could get money from his own parents. I heard from them that he began telling the story that I was down with an intractable disease and needed money for the treatment. Complete bullshit. I was almost amazed at the stories he came up with. My grandparents quickly called him out on the story and said that it was impossible. They had just contacted me a few weeks ago and I was perfectly fit and healthy. They also had told him about the Inter Vivos gift, which I personally think they shouldn't have told him. Enraged by the surprise news, he called me right away. However, he was a bit too late to get moving because I had already put my plans into action by this point. Actually, Right after I received the inheritance from my grandparents, they told me my father would try to reach out to me to get a hold of as much money as possible. They advised me to run away. Luckily, I'd been requesting a position overseas at my workplace for the longest time, and they finally put me in a position where I could leave the country. By the time my father knew what was going on with the inheritance and everything, I was long gone, far away in another country. I received the call from my dad, and the moment I picked up, he started yelling.
Hey, you little shit! I heard you received an inheritance from my parents! That's something I was supposed to receive! Give it back! All of it! Give it to me! Where the hell are you?
He rambled on and on like that. Well, sucks to be you, but your parents never planned to give the inheritance to you in the first place. They planned to donate all of the money. Everything. They didn't want to leave a single penny for you, because they already knew you'll spend it poorly and waste it on everything.
Shut up, shut up! That inheritance is mine! I have a right to keep it! They're my parents, not yours anyway! Where is it? I swear I'll hunt you down and we'll get to the bottom of this! Be prepared!
Oh my, oh dear. I completely forgot to tell you, but I'm not in the country anymore. I mean, you're free to look around, roam the continents, all over the world. Good luck with that.
Don't mess around with me! What do you mean you're not here in the country anymore?
I got my new job post. I'm working in an overseas office team right now.
What did you say? Now stop with all the jokes! That's my money! Give it back to me!
I told you already. Good luck finding me on this vast planet. I'm sure you'll find me before you die, but oh well, I already cut ties with you, and don't consider you a parent, so don't get your hopes up on trying to see me.
Hold up! Okay, I get it. Honey, sweetie, listen to me. We'll live together, eh? Okay? We'll repair our father-daughter relationship, okay? How's that? I promise I'll be a changed man. So come on now. Tell me where you live. Pretty please?
Stop it. Don't make yourself more miserable than you already are. It's obvious you just want the money. There's no way in hell I'm gonna tell you. Well then, tough luck. Goodbye.
Damn you! Give it back! Give me back my money!
I guess this poor man just mindlessly expected to receive his parents' inheritance after they died or something. As if that would happen. After realizing that would never happen and he would never get the money, he fell into a fit of rage. Well, that does not affect me a single bit. Out and about, and free and away from all the trouble overseas. Luckily, and thank God he didn't, my dad doesn't know what company I work for. And plus, even if he were to crack the code and find out the company, obviously my personal information is something that should be kept private. So there's no way my office would tell him. I also heard that after my dad finished up using the money he took from me, he kept doing what he did. Gambling, chasing women around, and getting himself into deep debt. I guess all he has left is to rot away, doing nothing. I also changed my phone too. I let my grandparents know my new number, just in case. And I heard they've blocked his number too. I heard a rumor a little while later that my dad was just drowning in debt. And his house got taken away too. He was left on the streets and he's living as a homeless man. I mean, he was a shithead for so long. He deserved this ending, 100%. My name is Emily Brown. I live a fairly basic life with my husband. I would say I'm pretty happy, except for this one particular situation. My husband, Eric, His mother passed away in a traffic accident when he was in middle school, 6th grade to be exact. Since then, his father and his older sister, 5 years older than him, took care of him. Just hearing that story alone, I thought, wow, that must be a very kind, caring family, but the truth is, I hated everything about them. My father-in-law kept saying horrible things about me, and being close to Eric's sister also stressed me out. I hated going to their place. I tried telling Eric about my feelings and how I felt uncomfortable around his family, but he responded,
Well, I mean, I do want to get back to them, after all the stuff they've done for me, you know?
He would only say that and would bring me along to every family event, like Christmas or Thanksgiving. As for today's episode, this happened during the May holidays, Golden Week. We were driving to Eric's place, and the closer we got, the more stressed out I became. Eric's dad, Kevin, was the type of person who would complain about someone or something, anything he could think of, non-stop, 24/7, 365. It almost seemed like he was held at gunpoint and he would die if he stopped bad-mouthing people. He would speak poorly of me and my parents like there was no tomorrow. Eric's sister, Karen, was just like her father. She was also the type that seemed incapable of functioning if she stopped bad-mouthing everyone. It was endless when the two were together. I honestly wouldn't be surprised at all if they told me they genuinely didn't know any kind words, or kindness in general. What's worse, Eric never stood up for me in any of these situations. He was straight up useless. He would just stand there doing nothing, and each time in the car on the way back, he would say quietly,
Sorry about that.
I would reply back, It's fine. This would be our routine. But this year, I've had enough. During this time, my dad was fighting cancer for the 2nd time, and obviously my in-laws were aware of the situation too. My dad pulled through as he went through his 2nd chemotherapy treatment, and by this time, he had lost a lot of his hair, so he was visibly worn out. One look at him, and anybody could tell he was going through some rough treatment, but he was still doing his very best to survive. On this day, Kevin and Karen decided to pay a visit and come to the hospital. Their visit was quite uneventful, and there wasn't that much of a problem. Until Kevin took out a small get-well-soon gift and passed it to my dad. When he reached out to receive the gift bag, my dad's hand briefly touched Kevin's hand. The moment his father-in-law felt that, he jumped back, slapped my dad's hand away, and recoiled in disgust.
Who? Oh, that was a close one. Did you see it? I was this close to catching the baldy germs.
He laughed as he brushed his hands off. The remark he made was so rude, childish, inappropriate, you name it. My face flushed red in anger, and I think my dad noticed I was very disturbed by what had just happened. Just when I was about to throw hands, my dad laughed softly and said,
Oh, don't worry, sir. This type of baldness doesn't spread.
My dad told me afterward he had heard about the two, Kevin and Karen's attitudes and how they badmouthed everyone around me. He said he expected them to say stuff to him anyways and prepared himself for the worst. Plus, he also said he didn't want my relationship with Eric to go down because of his illness. Despite his kind words, trying to reassure me everything was going to be alright, my anger never died down. It was better off them talking shit about me than it would be easy. I could just fight them, or be a proper grown-up and deal with it in a mature way, but this was different. I was appalled at their nerves to make fun of a person who can honestly die any minute. That was the true reason why I was furious towards my in-laws. Couldn't they honestly tell right from wrong? What's wrong with their morality? Are they really that stupid? I felt powerless and almost ashamed of myself for being so angry, but I managed to pull my anger in and waited until the two left the hospital grounds. In the car on the way back, Eric apologized to me, as always, but this day, I was incapable of saying, "It's okay," back. It was impossible. I couldn't. If I did, it would mean I would forgive my in-laws' inappropriate and unacceptable attitudes, and also forgive how Kevin acted toward my true father. There was no way I would do that, but if I tried to speak, I knew the anger I bottled up would explode. I had no choice but to keep quiet. An awkward silence spread throughout the car. After a few minutes, I heard a small from behind me. Eric had clicked his tongue in frustration. This was the last straw. I felt something. A mixture of anger, frustration, disgust, and irritation bubbling up inside my stomach like hot lava. It was at this exact moment that I felt and decided that I didn't want to be with him anymore. He was kind and nice to me before. If it weren't for my in-laws, I thought we were doing fairly well as a couple. Oh boy, how wrong I was. This irritated tongue click from Eric told me everything. He didn't even need to say anything. I would receive endless slander whenever I went into my in-laws' place, but Eric would never interrupt them and say, "Hey, leave her alone," or something, or anything. Just sitting there, not saying a single word to protect me, or tell them to stop. I guess I should have noticed the red flags. This time, even my dad became their target, and still Eric tried to end things with a simple apology. Just a single, "I'm sorry." You hear me? It was then that I realized Eric was just trying to protect himself by pushing me into the front of the wave of verbal abuse. He thought I was stupid enough that gently apologizing on the way home can smooth things out, and I would forgive him just like that. He thought if he could aim his dad and sister's interest toward me, I would be their only target of abuse. He would be safe. But today, I went against his plans. I fought back for the first time. So that explains the irritated tongue click, I thought to myself. By this time, I had decided to end things with him, and quickly had to think of a new plan. "Hey, can you stop the car at the nearby roadside station? I want to run to the bathroom real quick." A while later, we arrived at the closest roadside station, and Eric dropped me off. Pretending to go to the bathroom, I rushed to one of the stores. Making sure he didn't follow me or was checking on me, I walked to the other side of the building and made a run for it. I wandered around the area for about 10 or so minutes and called my husband. The moment he got on the phone, I gave him no time to speak. "I'm gonna catch a taxi by myself and head home. You go home by yourself too. Oh, and just, by the way, we're divorcing. Is everything clear?" I said that and hung up without waiting for him to respond. I soon received a bombardment of phone calls from Eric, but I obviously ignored all of them. I turned silent mode on my phone and proceeded to ignore any and all calls from this man that I do not want to call my husband anymore. I soon was able to hit a main road and called a taxi to head home. My phone still continued to ring, but after 20 or so minutes passed, Eric seemed to have given up. The calls soon died down. After both Eric and I arrived home, we sat down and decided to talk about what had just happened. Eric started the conversation, but all he did was complain, whine, and make excuses about his attitude.
Hey, I mean, you were putting up with my parents this whole time. I thought you'd be fine this time around too. Why do I need to get yelled at? You should know by now that there's no point in trying to stop my dad from saying or doing stuff like that. It's just a waste of energy. Just pretend to agree to what he says and he'll stay happy and keep his good mood. You can say all you want in your mind. Just don't say it to Dad directly and keep it to yourself, okay? That's the best solution for you. If you talk back to him, it'll end up just lowering your image. I just don't think it's a good idea. I don't want to see you get hurt by my family, you know? This is all for you, Emily. It's because I care about you. As for my sister, she's a bit sad and lonely, you know? I hope you'll forgive her. She's just following my dad because that's the only way she can cope with her feelings.
I couldn't believe what this man before me was saying. I was exasperated. It's not about me. Frankly, I don't give a damn about what your family thinks of me or say to me, but how they treated my father? I don't think I can let this one slide. He's trying so hard to fight his disease. He's doing his best to survive, and that's the attitude you show to him? You truly think that was acceptable behavior?
Well, I mean, it's not like this is gonna continue forever, right? It's only until your dad dies. Come on, it's just for a little longer. You really can't put up with it?
I couldn't believe what I had just heard. Is this man right in his mind? I felt my blood boil. Until your dad dies? Just for a little longer? I was in disbelief. My affection for Eric was dying down at a rapid speed during the first half of the ride back home, but this was the final blow. I was absolutely done with this man. I mean, if he really cared about me and was worried about being hurt by his family, why would he bring me over to his home every time? He could have just gone by himself. In the past, I did try asking him why we would always gather at his family's place whenever we had something going on. Hey, don't we always go to your place for big family events? Why don't you and your family come around to my place for once? I asked him one day.
I mean, Dad gets pretty grumpy if we don't go. I honestly don't want to deal with that whole situation. Plus, I feel bad for troubling your home, since your dad is going through such a rough time right now.
He would say, pulling on those puppy dog eyes. Well, yeah, thanks for being considerate, but you did end up dragging me all over the place in the end, didn't ya? Oh yeah? Fine then. I mean, in the end, you just want to save your sweet ass. You just don't care about taking care of your partner or listening to her needs. You just want me to bear all the pain that your stupid dad and sister push onto me, huh? Well, no thank you. I quickly understood that this talk was going nowhere, so I packed my bags and left for my home where my family lives. The moment I got home, I started to look for a lawyer that could support me during my divorce process. My mother said she would help too, and assisted my research. Soon enough, almost all of my relatives knew about my situation, and they were all enraged. They all chimed in to help out, and I gratefully accepted their offer. They used all their connections they each had, and I was able to meet a very nice lawyer that met my requirements. However, even after my lawyer approached Eric in a formal manner, he still argued.
She put up with his remarks before. She could have just let it slide like she always did. Then this would have never happened.
Despite his arguments, the lawyer firmly stated that whether people dismiss it or not, abusive language is still abusive at the end of the day. The lawyer calmly explained that the fact that Eric never tried to stop his parents verbally abusing his wife and her family can be a strong enough reason to file for divorce. It took Eric a while to process that information and understand the concerns I had about him, but in the end, I think he got the point. But the last time I saw him, he still went on with his usual claims.
I mean, even I was able to put up with my dad's abusive language.
He kept showering hate at me until the very end, but I retorted. I mean, you could have. You had the choice to leave him, didn't you? But you didn't. It was your choice to stay. If you really hated your dad's attitude, you had the choice to not go back home. You're a grown adult, Eric. You should know this by now. I finished my comments, and Eric didn't seem to have any rebuttals against me. That was an easy fight. In the end, I was able to win the case and got my divorce. I was able to get Eric to pay huge sums of money in compensation for all the emotional damages he had caused. He wasn't able to pay it in bulk, but he'll be sending me money every month for a good while now. Since then, I moved back into my parents' place with my mom and my dad, who got discharged from the hospital. I was finally free from the stress of being bullied by my in-laws and was able to spend my days in peace. Then, one day, I received a call from my ex-husband.
Emily? Hey, sorry for contacting you like this. It's just that my dad's got cancer. I was wondering if you could lower the price on the consolation money.
Are you kidding me? Of course not. I'm nothing to you now. We're not family anymore. I don't care about your family's situation, and I won't do anything about it. What did you expect?
How can you say such a thing? I mean, yeah, we're divorced now, but we used to be family.
Family? Are you joking? You and your little family treated me and my father like trash all this time, and you forced me to put up with it. And you like to call that family?
My dad's hospitalized, and he's really stressed out and angry right now. He's bossing us around to buy stuff for him. I need your help. I don't have any time or money. Please, I'm begging you.
Well, it looks like you're still just brainlessly following what your dad says. Do you not have your own opinion or choose anything for yourself? Either way, I don't think I can help you there. Sorry. Oh, and just by the way, I'm pretty sure the consolation money you're paying me every month was done automatically from your bank account, so if anything happens and you're unable to pay for one of the months, I'll have to take things to court. I'll do whatever it takes to make you pay the full amount. Am I clear?
How heartless can you get? You're dealing with a former family member with cancer. You could have at least tried to care for a moment.
Excuse me? Right back at you is what I'd like to say to you, sir. Try looking back at what you've said to me and my family in the past. You laughed at my father, treated him with disrespect all this time, and now you come back to me and say I should care for your sick father? No, thank you. I don't want to hear from you ever again. I was almost shouting by this point, and I ended the call. Honestly, I think this is the perfect conclusion of this poor family. The former father-in-law who pointed fingers and laughed at my father fighting cancer, and the former husband who naturally expected my father to die. It still sounds unbelievable. The pain and anxiety cancer patients have to go through is something we can never understand, unless we go through it ourselves. I hope this family finally understands how rough it is to worry and care for a family member that has cancer. I'll never forgive my former husband and his family, or show any sympathy or compassion. I was in 3rd grade at the time, and my mother's new husband, my stepfather, was physically abusing me on the daily. On a good day, he would slap my face with his hand or with a ruler. I don't think I ought to tell you what he did on the bad days. There were times when Mom came home late because she had to work, and during such times, I was stuck alone with my intoxicated stepfather. If he disapproved of even one thing about how I looked or how I behaved, his fists went flying. I was totally stuck, because on one hand, I was scared of what he would do if I told Mom, and on the other hand, the painful abuse persisted every time I came home. I remember I would hide my bag in the backyard of a nearby uninhabited house and just roam around the vicinity of my home until Mom got home. On this particular day, it was getting late, as usual, and fewer people could be seen out on the streets. A gentleman approached me and asked,
What are you doing out here at this hour, young man? Are you lost or something?
There was still some time left until Mom got home from work, and since I didn't want to go home to be with that stupid asshole, I answered plain and honest. I don't want to go home. That's when the man suggested,
How about you come over to my place? It's dangerous for a young kid like you to be out here all alone in the dark.
In retrospect, the way he asked alone was enough to make anyone mature enough really suspect, but in that moment, I was feeling kinda insecure and I thought I could distinguish some kindness in the man's words, so I nodded my head. When we arrived, he told me to have a bath and get warm and comfortable. Because I didn't have a change of underwear or any clothes at all, I answered saying that I'm okay, but he retorted,
Just get in the bath.
He sounded somewhat aggressive, and I had no choice but to do as I was told. After coming out of the bath, I heard him talking on the phone in the living room. I didn't overhear every single word he said, but one thing I did hear burned into my mind.
I got the kid. If we call his parents, we could get a ransom, and we'll be rich!
And suddenly, it made me scared shitless. Right as I heard that, a single word, wrought with dangerous evil, bubbled to the surface of my conscious mind. Kidnappers. I thought about quickly finding a way to escape, but the man's apartment was small, and I couldn't make a clean getaway without him seeing me all the while. I eventually finally understood the severity of the situation I was in, and I felt my heart beat even faster, ever stronger. At that moment, the door to the apartment made a clicking sound, and someone pushed the door and came inside. As the man and I looked towards the direction of the door, there stood another man who looked about the same age as him.
Thanks for coming, bro. So, this is the brat you were talking about over the phone. Doesn't look like he comes from a rich family, though. Am I right, man?
The second man was eyeing me like I was an expensive sports car. That's when my suspicions were confirmed. They lured me here for the purpose to demand ransom from my family in exchange for my return. Not too long thereafter, the first man said,
Come on, we're gonna go to your house now.
And I was pushed into the back of a car. As I listened to their conversation, I had no idea why we had to go to my house, since this was a legitimate kidnapping, but my young imagination just knew it had something to do with money. I came to the conclusion that I wasn't gonna let them take me back to my house so that they could just commit more crimes. The second man asked me directions where I lived, and poor little me, thinking I had to do whatever I could to prevent them from ever reaching my house, began to say random directions. However, that eventually led into driving into circles, and they soon got suspicious of my behavior.
Hey, yo! You don't think this one has an idea of what we're doing with him exactly, do you? What are you, stupid? There's no way a child could understand such things. We're still going in a circle now, aren't we? Hey, back there! You better be right about where we're going to your house, buddy. You're gonna regret it if you're pulling our legs here.
Slightly intimidated by the death stare he'd given me, I blurted, "All the roads look the same to me at night. I don't know, it's very close. To a 7-Eleven? Is there a 7-Eleven somewhere close?" That was the truth, by the way. My house was pretty close to a convenience store, but you're probably wondering why I actually told them the truth this time. The reason was simple. In the parking lot of the aforementioned convenience store, motorcycle gangs often lingered there for long periods of time. Although the guys were all members of a crime gang, they were really friendly towards children, and they even said to me all alone on a chilly evening one day,
Hey, buddy. It's effing chilly outside, ain't it? Eat this up and get that strong body of yours warm and wriggling, yeah?
and they always gave me hot sandwiches and juice boxes. If destiny allowed them to be there tonight, I thought I'd be saved. As the car pulled into the convenience store parking lot, there were gang members just as I'd hoped. They were smoking, drinking cocktails, and eating junk food as usual. But there weren't as many today, and that made me a little worried. The first man said,
Brad really does understand what's going on, yo. He was just trying to get help by sticking his head out of the window and waving his arms. Eh? What the frick? Hey, buddy! What the hell do you think you're doing?
I wasn't calling for help. There are these guys who are my friends, and I was excited to see them.
Yeah, I don't trust that. We're turning back, alright?
I felt hopeless. The car made its way back where it came from, toward a mountain of darkness. What should I do? I don't want to die. But then the first man said,
Eh? Frick is that over there? Tell me you see it too.
I took a look at the car behind me. I could see a few motorcycles tailing the car. Those are the cool motorcycle guys. I was so happy there were signals for help and they made their way to them.
The hell are those pricks doing? Get the hell away from us, goddammit! Looks like they're actually following us, dude. Hey, yo, what the frick? Hey, so you really were sending signals for help back at the store now, weren't you?
No, I didn't do anything.
Then why in the goddamn frick are they following us?
As time passed, the three motorcycles were joined by a couple more and followed the car at a constant speed.
Hey, dude! They're gaining on us! And it looks like there's more of them. Shit! Shut up! You're just so scared your brain's playing a trick on you.
And then the driver screamed
Ah!
as he slammed on the brakes. Before us were four more motorcycles, and it looked like they had gone ahead of us to meet us right here.
Who the hell are these guys?
As the two men argued about what to do, both scared out of their mind, one of the gang members made a tap, tap, tap on the driver's window. The guy who did was none other than the leader of the gang, the same guy who was always nice to me every time I'd meet him at the convenience store.
What are you blokes doing? Well, we were just going on a drive. Uh-huh. Mind explaining to me why the frick you're driving into a mountain at this ungodly hour? We are... My cousin's kid just won't shut up about wanting to see the mountains at night. Yeah, alright. Do you want to see the mountain at night, buddy?
And then I screamed as loud as my lungs could. Nope! These stupid heads kidnapped me because they wanted lots of money to get rich and buy a better house than the small, dirty one they have right now. The two men glared at me as if to say, "Shut the hell up or we're gonna kill you." But the gang leader said,
Ayo, just what do you think you're doing, scaring the homie like that?
At that, all the gang members got off their motorcycles and swarmed around the car, trapping the two men.
Get the boy out of this frickin' shithouse!
They started beating the crap out of the car.
Aye! We'll let him go! We're letting him go! Someone please help us!
They unlocked the door and I jumped outside. The leader himself brought me away from the men and said,
You're alright now, buddy. You did the right thing signaling us. We noticed right away something wasn't right. And we managed to corner them before, you know. You're the MVP for today, homie. You were really brave.
The stress and anxiety just melted away so quickly, so suddenly, and the force of relief and happiness that enveloped me brought me to tears. The leader kindly pat my head, just like a big brother would, until I stopped crying. Another gang member contacted the police, and the two who perpetrated a kidnapping were quickly apprehended. Apparently, Mom was worried sick about my absence and called them numerous times. My son hasn't come home yet. I reunited with her immediately after I was released from the care of the police. Mom just completely broke down when she saw my face, safe and sound, and her sobs were so loud in my ear she nearly choked me to death with a hug. Thank God you're safe, honey. And then the leader said,
You're his mother, right? How about you pay more attention to your child, eh? Buddy here's been going around the neighborhood every night because he never want to go back home to that asshole husband of yours. Beating the shit out of an innocent kid like him. I ought to give him a good beating myself, for real, for real.
Mom was shocked when she heard what he said. She asked me if it was true, and I went on telling her everything about my stepfather and what he was doing to me. Later that night, she kicked the bastard out of the house, into the custody of the police, without any hesitation whatsoever.
The hell do you think you're doing?
I think you stole my line. How dare you use your dirty hand on my son? I'll never forgive you. Consider our marriage done, and be prepared for the demands I'm gonna make upon your sorry ass. And then she said, I'm so sorry, honey. I'm so sorry for not noticing anything. Everything's gonna be all right now. That bad man's not coming home ever again. She was crying in apology, and one has to consider this. Upon weighing her husband with her child, the fact that it literally took a couple microseconds for her to choose me over the bad man made me so happy. After I was saved by the gang leader, I somewhat became a celebrity of sorts within the gang, and they started talking to me a lot more. Felt strangely embarrassing, but it was also really nice. The leader would say,
Hey, buddy, you're looking brighter than the sun today. Holy shit!
I am, all thanks to you, big bro. Later on, I moved houses after Mom found a casual job that provided accommodation too. But that gang leader was like an older brother to me. Add the fact that he saved my life, and that pretty much guarantees my respect for all eternity. To this day, he resides in my heart as a role model of leadership, of kindness, and always lending a helping hand to those who need it most.
I once had a wife and children, both of whom I treasured more than my own life, and I was really happy. But then my ex-wife started to act pretty strangely. This'll sound a little cliche, but she started to bring her phone to the bathroom. She also started sneaking downstairs to send secret messages to someone. And I'll be honest, it didn't take very long for me to wring the truth out of her. She apparently was very aware of her good looks and sexiness. She enjoyed the attention people gave her because of it.
I'm such a naughty girl, and I love being one.
I dare you to find a guy who wouldn't get a little mad at such a comment. Part of me thinks I'm lying when I say those words made me a bit angry. I feel like I should be furious. I told her I wanted a divorce, but she was already completely set on marrying that person she was cheating on me with. And her affirmative response was devastatingly quick to reach my ears. We fought through to the end over the custody of our child. And in the end, I lost the war. My ex won custody of both of our children. The same two children who were the most beautiful things in the world. And the fact that I wouldn't see them as much broke what was left of my heart. I love them so much, and so I never failed to pay $1,000 of child support, vowing I was never going to let them go through any rough time. Later on, a little bird of misfortune told me that she'd married the person she'd been cheating on me with. And although I thought that that wouldn't break me in the slightest, it totally did. But we weren't together anymore. And as long as my kids were growing up well and strong, I wasn't going to say anything that could potentially harm them. Later on, I also met someone new, and after a nice relationship, went on marrying again. There have been times I felt terrible about my kids and how they were going on with their life without their daddy to be there for them. But my new life with my new wife was filled with happiness. However, for some reason, my new wife and I couldn't conceive any children. Try as we might, she just never got pregnant. Obviously, my current wife got worried and secretly went to a hospital to see if there was anything wrong with her, to which the answer was no. So naturally, she told me everything, and then urged me to go to the hospital too. That's when we discovered that more than 95% of my sperm cells were abnormal. and that getting a woman pregnant the conventional way was a biological impossibility. And that wasn't all. While I thought that this must have happened 4 or 5 years ago, I was told that the probability of that being the case was low, and instead claimed it was from when I was born. That's when a horrifying thought cut through my mind like a hot sword through a stick of soft butter. Then who are those kids? I had never even begun to think about that possibility. I begged this to just be a bad dream, a trick on my mind, a lie. But this was reality, and a professional had told me the truth, the cold, hard truth. I started to wonder what I should do after making this terrible discovery. And as I thought about it, the day to pay the monthly $1,000 had come before I knew it. In the end, I didn't pay the money, for the sole reason that I wanted to find out. I wanted to know if those kids were really my children, and that I was paying $1,000 to support my children. The next day, my ex-wife called me. What did she want, you ask? Why, to hurry along with the payments is what she wanted. Why wasn't I surprised? At first, the transaction was polite and well-mannered, but perhaps she became impatient with me for holding an indecisive attitude. Something inside her just snapped, and she started insulting me. That brought my blood to a boil, and I said, "Listen here, I went to the hospital the other day.
What does that have to do with anything, goddammit?
Explain to me why I'm infertile, but still have 2 loving children."
That's not a solid reason not to pay child support for your own kids. Hold on.
I'm freaking telling you that I literally cannot have any children biologically. And now I'm asking you so very kindly to tell me why there's this strange reality where I actually have 2 children of my own.
You just can't have any children with your wife right now because there's something wrong with her. That's why you're absolutely fine, or rather, you were when you got me pregnant, twice.
You think we didn't consider that possibility? Doctors ran tests on her, but found nothing wrong at all. But that's when I got tested, just to be sure. We found out it's physically impossible for me to have kids. It seemed like she was also a bit shook with this reality, but she didn't get too carried away. After a while, she said,
Listen, what does all this bullshit have anything to do with our original problem? We aren't together anymore, remember?
and she abruptly hung up the phone. The next day, my ex's current husband tried to contact me himself. My current wife was the one who answered the phone.
Your husband hasn't paid the child support yet, and my wife's acting really oddly. Is something going on or what? Without some financial support, we can't properly raise the children. If life becomes a lot more difficult to live, the house environment is destroyed in no time. And it's such a pity to raise two cute kids in a home that isn't exactly the picture-perfect idea of happy.
That's what he said, pretty much, and my wife interpreted that as,
Give us the money, or your children will get it.
or something equally horrifying. Now, I gotta be brutally honest here. I literally jumped up from my seat at work and screamed at the top of my lungs when my wife told me this. They were such angels, even if they weren't related by blood. After talking it over with her, my wife and I decided to A, assume custody and all rights to raise them as our own children without letting the children themselves know what's going on. We wouldn't accept any child support, and we'd rather them pay palimonies in a periodic way. B, should they refuse our offer, we file a court case on grounds of absence of parentage and make them pay back the $4 million in child support we paid them over the months. After everything was decided, we hired a trusted lawyer, and with his help, went on to summon my ex and her current husband to discuss the matter and what to become of it. From the get-go, what her husband blurted from that big mouth of his was,
We ain't gonna lower the amount of child support by even a single freaking cent, you hear?
His foolish laughing made me wonder if he was a recovering psychopath or something. What did this bastard have that my ex dumped me for him anyway? We went straight to the point. You'll forgive me for being so direct and without any explanation, but we've come to demand custody of the children. I found my ex dumbfounded at that statement.
No, never! I'll never give them up to you.
Her husband was pretty surprised too.
Wait, hold on. You can't be serious here. Neither of you are related to either of those ankle biters? And even so, you put up such a fuss over the whole shenanigans with custody and child support and whatnot?
But then something seemed to dawn on him, because then he said,
Then who the hell is that child? I'm talking about my third son.
This particular child is the alleged child of my ex with her current husband. If he made the connection that the two children I wanted custody of were not my own children, then perhaps a spark of doubt ignited within, suggesting the idea that his son might not be his son after all. And I can't blame him for suddenly doubting everything. As a way of mediating the argument that ensued between the two of them, I offered a total of $1 million as a palimony. My ex's husband jumped at the idea, hooked onto it, and never let go. But he also started studying me carefully, saying,
You know, I also raised those kids as though they were my own. No sensible parent would give up their children for a measly $1 million, wouldn't you agree?
I calmed my excited nerves before I replied, I understand the feeling of loss you'll get when you think about losing your kids. I went through that, and I don't believe you'll find anyone who can relate to you this much miles around. He was satisfied, but my ex went into another panic tantrum, even more significant in magnitude than the previous. And it was a sight to see, let me tell you what. She literally got on her knees and begged me not to take the children.
Please, I beg you, leave the children with me. Please, please.
Imagine that on an endless loop, and that pretty much ruined all attempts to reason with her for that day. So we decided to call it until the next day. She was just so stubborn on keeping the children that it made me wonder if there was something she wasn't telling anyone. Some other reason behind the curtains that no one must know about. However, another surprise arrived at my doorstep just a few days later. My old father-in-law, my ex's father, contacted me, saying that he wanted to meet. Upon arriving where he told us to go, with our lawyer at our side, he started to beg, literally the exact moment he saw our faces. His wife did likewise as well. Naturally, something like this would not only have you curious, but it would make you frightened. What exactly could be so devastating to force both of my old in-laws on their knees, bowing at our feet? It didn't take long to understand what they wanted. It was to let them keep the children. Just as a precaution, I asked, you seem to fully believe what I've told you, but have you not thought about the father of the two children? The pair of them hung their heads. That was solid proof that my ex-wife was set on keeping the children, and that no amount of persuasion would change that. My spirits plummeted into the ground and started digging my grave once again. My old in-law suggested the solution of them paying back all the child support I deposited up until then, as well as an additional $5 million as a form of compensation. The authorities were apparently willing to settle for this particular solution. The only condition was that the children themselves remain ignorant about all of this, at least until then they were old enough to first understand everything and then proceed to comprehend it, as well as think about it with a calm, rational mentality. What concerned me the most was the behavior of my ex-wife. For example, I thought she really wanted to keep the children because she didn't want me to find out that she and the children were being abused or something like that. But it seems she just legitimately wanted to keep them, and that was all there was to it. What convinced me that this was the truth was that her parents offered to pay me $5 million in compensation, 5 times as much as I offered to pay her in exchange for the kids, in addition to paying back the whole $4 million or so in child support. My ex herself was bawling as she said,
I'm sorry. I'm so sorry for everything I've done in the past. It was stupid of me to be so arrogant. I accept full responsibility. Just please don't take my children away from me, please. Please, I beg you. I'll do anything else, anything to meet whatever demands you have. Just please don't take them away.
You insulted me pretty brutally when I failed to pay the child support once. You won't see another penny from me again. How do you propose you provide the home they deserve?
I will find work. I'll turn myself into particles of broken bone and ripped flesh if I must. I'll work enough to provide for my darlings, and I will not accept another penny of child support from you ever again. Just please, forgive me. Don't take them away from me, please.
I had never seen anyone this selfless and so determined to do what's right for the good of whom she treasured. Keep in mind, I was once married to this woman and lived together with her. Her parents added,
We're terribly sorry about what our daughter did. We understand that there's nothing we can do to fully repay you for our mistakes. But please, on behalf of our daughter, we beg you not to take away her children. We may seem like untrustworthy folk, what with everything that's going on, but we swear to you, the children are worth more to us than life itself. We love them truly and deeply. We beg you, please reconsider.
There was no conceivable way I could decide right then and there, but after discussing it thoroughly with my current wife and a lawyer, we decided to accept their proposition. and bring the whole matter to a close. It was one of the hardest decisions I ever made because so much was influencing me. It was near impossible to come to a rational conclusion. However, these words from the children changed everything. "We want to stay with Mommy!" Poor souls were crying, goddammit! A quick glance at their clothes, their skin, and their overall physical appearance told me that there was nothing to worry about. Although they aren't my children by blood, they mean the world to me. And their happiness is what matters most. It's truly disappointing I won't always be by their side, seeing them grow big and strong. But now I know that my ex is willing to die a pitiful death for them, should there be no other alternative. And I'm confident they'll be safe and happy with her. Truly, I do. Later, I consulted doctors about my predicament with my current wife, and they informed me that although it would be pretty difficult to get her pregnant the regular way, if I underwent infertility treatment, the probability of improvement was substantial. And now I'm doing what I can with my loving wife beside me the whole way. The treatment was mentally challenging, but after 2 long years of continuous open communication and amazing teamwork with my wife, we were finally able to put a new, beautiful life inside her belly. When we found out she was pregnant, I pretty much tackled her in a hug, crying tears of joy. Now I have a new goal: to raise my child, this time my real child, by its side for all eternity. My name is Bob Brown. It was just another day, one day out of my ordinary life. I happened to check my phone, only to find out my wife, Emily, had been cheating on me. It was during the time when my wife and I hadn't been, intimate with each other for about a year. We had just had our first child, our son Jonathan, and I gave her the benefit of the doubt that she might have been going through postpartum depression or something. I decided to let her off the hook if this was just a one-night thing. Well, I didn't divorce her or anything. I just did some research and made my moves against the side guy. Without knowing any of this, Emily was visibly flustered at the fact that this guy suddenly stopped responding to her messages. I noticed a shift in my life, as I would come home to hear Jonathan crying in their room all alone. She would say,
Jonathan, I was crying all day. I was too tired. I couldn't do anything.
and not take care of the house at all. So I decided to take initiative and took care of Jonathan. I bathed him and made sure he was properly fed. I also cooked for my wife and me, and did the other household chores like doing the laundry. So this must be the rumored maternity neurosis. That's why I thought I wanted to do the best I could to help her and support her if she was having a rough time. But one day, when I was at work, I got a text from my wife.
I want to see you. Why aren't you texting me anymore? Life is meaningless without you. I don't think I can go on like this. I miss you.
I saw this text pop up in the notifications menu of my phone, but when I opened the message up, the message I saw wasn't there. She had unsent it. She accidentally sent the message meant to the side guy to me. Man, I didn't know she was this madly in love with this side guy. I decided to man up and make the tough decision. Set my wife free. One day, I asked my parents to take care of Jonathan for the day and asked Emily out on a date.
Well, yeah, sure, but what's up? It's been a while since you asked me out for anything.
Well, I think you're just tired. You seem really drained these days, so I thought it'd be nice if we could go somewhere and get some fresh air. I spoke as I drove, and soon we arrived at our destination, the city's hospital. Emily looked confused as she reacted.
Huh? The hospital? Are you saying hi to a friend or something?
So I responded, "We're here to visit a person that's very precious to you. I wanted you to be happy, so I kept it a secret." I talked as we walked, and I brought Emily to the destination. Emily was so drained, tired, and stressed out, there was no way she could have guessed right. I don't think it was in any of her options. Even when we reached the room and saw the nameplate beside the door, she still didn't seem to catch on to what was going on. "Hey, how you doing? I'm here to check in on you," I called out to the man in question in a relatively cheery voice. Kevin seemed to be sleeping when we came in, but when Emily noticed whose room this was, she instantly turned pale and gasped. She panicked and stuttered as she spoke.
Who could this be? Huh? It can't be, but, pleased to meet you?
Oh, honey, don't be silly. He's sound asleep, can't you tell? Wakey, wakey! Hey, wake up! I add an extra slap to his cheeks, thinking it would help. Kevin opened his eyes drowsily. The nurse quickly noticed something was off in this hospital room and came rushing over to see what was going on.
Mr. Brown, sir, please. This is hospital grounds. How many times must I tell you? We need to ask you to stop this at once. You know this isn't your first time being told this, am I right?
She cried at me angrily and pushed us out of Kevin's hospital room. Aw, man! I just thought it'd be a good idea to pay Kevin a visit. I thought he would be a sad man all alone in his room. Don't you think so, huh?
No, that's not...
Well, at least you know where he is now. You know which hospital he's in and what room he's staying in.
No, that's... Honey, listen, I can explain.
Oh, and also, I found a new place, a new apartment for you to live in.
No, that's not what I wanted. Please, just listen.
Nah, Em, you don't need to be so thankful like that. I just wanted to do this for you. I just want you to be happy.
Bob, I'm sure we can make this work. You're not listening to me.
She began to speak back to me, as if she had the right to do so. So instead of yelling or shouting at her, I just stared straight into her eyes, coldly. So, after that whole conversation settled down, I took Emily and drove her to this new apartment, also known as Kevin's apartment, right by the hospital. I had already borrowed the keys from Kevin, so there was no trouble at all getting into his room. Well, you should already be familiar with this room. You've been coming over to Kevin's place for over a year now, right? Oh, and before I forget, this paper. Fill it out for me, will you? I pulled out a piece of paper and handed it to Emily.
You're divorcing me? No, please just listen. It's not what you think.
She seemed really emotional about it, and I had no idea why. Come on, I said it's fine. You don't need to worry about anything. I'll take care of the difficult stuff. I kept a cheery tone in my voice, but I could tell my eyes were very cold as I stared down at her. Letting out a big sigh, she signed the papers for me.
Is this the end for us?
You're so happy that you're crying? Wow, I'm so glad I did this for you. You really are making my day right now. I'll make sure I'll send all your stuff here by mail. Oh, and you don't need to worry about paying the consolation money. You have a whole new life ahead of you. Emily watched me as I left. In front of the entrance hall, she fell to her knees and wept. And so, by the end of that day, I was happily divorced. And I was a free man once again. It's not like I went out of my way to hurt Kevin or anything. He got himself into an accident when he was driving his motorcycle. I dropped by Kevin's workplace one day and happened to bump into him, who just arrived. Hello there, sir. I'm the husband of the girl you're dating. Kevin, still on his bike, suddenly accelerated and fled from the scene at full speed. He couldn't take the turn at the curb in time, fell over, and slid down the road for a good 30 meters. Well, I at least didn't just leave him lying there. He was passed out cold, so I called him an ambulance. Hey man, bro, hang in there. Are you okay? Why did you suddenly speed up like that? Kevin looked like he was in a lot of pain, and his left leg was completely broken and bent in the wrong direction. I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. He repeated that like a broken record. Don't worry, man. We'll sort things out later when you get all checked up, okay? I tried cheering him up, but Kevin was shaking and trembling throughout the whole ambulance ride. This is where I borrowed Kevin's apartment keys from his bag. Trust me, I did have his permission when I visited his apartment to grab some extra clothes and amenities and stuff. And I still have no idea why he completely lost it when he saw Emily.
Hey, Kevy. I heard that girls don't get extra pregnant if they already are. So you don't have to use any contraception when you're with me.
Wow, seriously? Hey, that's awesome! I wish you could stay pregnant all the time.
Well,
This made me feel sick.
since they just seem to be so madly in love with each other, I'm sure Kevin must have been over the moon soon to see his sweetheart come and visit him in the hospital. I always thought DNA test was a joke or something. I think you can guess what I did. I checked the DNA of my son, Jonathan. Lo and behold, it was the child between Emily and Kevin, not me. He wasn't my kid. First of all, it's obvious that Jonathan's done nothing wrong. It's not like I suddenly began hating him or anything, but I decided to ask Emily's parents to take care of Jonathan for now.
I am so sorry for what happened. I don't know what to say. We'll make sure to scold Emily very harshly when she comes back home.
As for Emily, Kevin's stay at the hospital stretched out longer than she expected. She began to struggle financially and became cornered to the point she had to return to her parents' place and ask for their help. Obviously, they did not let her back into the house. Time passed, and as Kevin got discharged from the hospital, she moved in with him, returning to his apartment. Kevin was still struggling from the sequela. Currently, Kevin has found a small job where he can work from home and lives as a house husband. But God knows how much he earns. Because of his physical disabilities, it seems he isn't able to properly take care of the baby. So in the end, it seems like they dropped Jonathan off at a daycare while Emily worked outside, during the day as a part-time office worker, and during the evening at a hostess bar. When Emily used to be with me, she loved fashion and always made sure she was following the trends and bought new clothes for each season. But when I ran into her a few months after the whole drama, she was nothing like how she used to be. It seemed like she was spending the bare minimum on clothes, no accessories, nothing glamorous. Plus, I have no idea if Kevin is able to do, with Emily in the near future. But I'm sure Emily had done it enough times. She went so far as to do it with Kevin while she was pregnant. She should be satisfied now. As a married couple, I realized the true importance of helping out each other and truly looking after each other. In hindsight, I'm glad I was able to learn this lesson the hard way. I'm happy for Emily, too. She's finally able to be together with her sweet husband. She must be leading her happily ever after life. I'm glad things worked out for her. I hope they'll stay together as a happy couple from now on.
How was today's video? If you enjoyed it, please subscribe, like, and leave a comment. Stay tuned for more.